7 Psychological Tricks to Read Anyone Instantly. Psychology of Human Behavior. Have you ever met someone for just a few minutes and wished you could know what they were really thinking? Imagine being able to tell if someone is confident, nervous, honest, interested, or even hiding something without asking a single question. The truth is, people reveal more through their body language, facial expressions, voice, and behavior than they do with their words. Psychologists have spent decades studying these hidden signals, and once you know what to look for, you'll start noticing things that most people completely miss. In today's video, we'll explore 7 powerful psychological tricks that can help you read people more accurately. These tricks won't make you a mind reader, but they will help you understand emotions, intentions, and personality much faster. Make sure you watch until the end because the final trick is one of the most useful skills you can learn for everyday life. Let's begin. Trick number 1. Watch their feet, not just their face. When we talk to someone, we naturally focus on their face. We watch their eyes, smile, and expressions. But psychologists say that one of the most honest parts of the body is actually the feet. Why? Because most people control their facial expressions. They smile even when they're upset. They nod even when they disagree. But they rarely think about controlling where their feet are pointing. Imagine you're talking to a coworker at work. They are smiling and answering your questions politely. Everything seems normal. But then you notice something interesting. Their feet are already pointing toward the door. This can be a small clue that they are ready to leave the conversation. It doesn't always mean they dislike you. Maybe they are late for a meeting or simply have somewhere else to be. That's why it's important to avoid jumping to conclusions. Now imagine you're meeting someone who is excited to talk with you. Their body faces you completely. Their feet point toward you. They lean in slightly while speaking. These signals often show genuine interest and attention. People who feel comfortable usually position their entire body toward the person they enjoy talking with. On the other hand, someone who feels uncomfortable may keep one foot pointed toward an exit or another person in the room. The key lesson here is simple. Never judge someone based on just one signal. Instead, combine different clues together. Look at their face, posture, tone of voice, and foot direction. When several signals match, your understanding becomes much more accurate. The more you practice noticing these small details, the easier it becomes to understand how people really feel. Trick number 2. Pay attention to their voice, not just their words. Many people believe communication is only about words. In reality, the way someone speaks often tells you more than what they actually say. Think about this. Someone says, "I'm fine." Those 2 words can have completely different meanings depending on how they are spoken. If they speak with a calm, relaxed voice, they probably mean it. But if their voice becomes quiet, shaky, or unusually slow, they may be feeling sad, stressed, or disappointed. A person's voice carries emotional information. Notice whether they suddenly speak faster than normal. Fast speech can sometimes suggest excitement, nervousness, or anxiety. Very slow speech may suggest careful thinking, tiredness, or emotional pressure. Listen for changes in volume as well. A confident person usually speaks clearly and at a comfortable volume. Someone who suddenly lowers their voice during a certain topic may feel uncertain or uncomfortable discussing it. You should also pay attention to pauses. When people suddenly stop before answering a simple question, they may be searching for the right words or thinking carefully before responding. That doesn't automatically mean they are lying. Many honest people pause because they want to give an accurate answer. Psychology teaches us that context matters. Instead of judging one moment, compare it with that person's normal speaking style. For example, if your friend normally speaks loudly but suddenly becomes quiet during one subject, that change may tell you the topic is emotionally important. The biggest mistake people make is listening only to words. Great communicators listen to the emotions behind those words. Next time you're talking with someone, pay attention to how they speak. You may discover feelings that were never spoken out loud. Trick number 3. Notice how they treat people who can't benefit them. One of the fastest ways to understand someone's true character is to watch how they treat people who have nothing to offer them. Anyone can be polite to their boss. Anyone can be friendly to an important customer. But how do they behave toward a waiter, A cleaner, a security guard, a delivery driver, or a stranger asking for help. These moments often reveal values that are difficult to fake. Imagine you're meeting someone for the first time. They are kind to you, smiling and respectful throughout your conversation. Later, you notice them speaking harshly to a restaurant server because their food arrived a few minutes late. That single interaction gives you valuable information. It doesn't necessarily define the entire person, but it shows how they behave when they believe there are no consequences. Psychologists often observe that people's everyday actions reveal more about their personality than carefully chosen words. Respect, patience, and kindness are habits. They appear consistently across different situations. On the other hand, people who frequently lose their temper over small problems may struggle with emotional control. Another thing to notice is gratitude. Does the person say thank you? Do they acknowledge the efforts of others? Do they interrupt people constantly? Or do they listen with respect? These small behaviors build a much clearer picture than impressive speeches ever can. Remember, everyone has bad days. A single stressful moment doesn't tell the whole story. Instead, look for patterns over time. If someone consistently treats others with respect regardless of their job, age, or social status, that usually reflects strong character. Reading people isn't about judging them after one mistake. It's about carefully observing repeated behaviors. Because in psychology, patterns are much more reliable than isolated moments. Trick number 4. Watch for changes in their normal behavior. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to read others is assuming everyone behaves the same way. The truth is, every person has a different personality and communication style. Some people naturally speak loudly, while others are quiet. Some maintain eye contact all the time, while others are naturally shy. This is why psychologists often focus on changes instead of individual behaviors. Imagine you have a coworker who is usually cheerful, talks a lot, and enjoys joking with everyone. One day, they suddenly become very quiet, avoid conversations, and seem distracted. That change may be telling you something. Maybe they are dealing with stress at home. Maybe they received bad news. Maybe they're simply feeling tired. Now imagine someone who usually speaks calmly suddenly becomes defensive whenever a certain topic comes up. That sudden shift may suggest the topic is emotionally important to them. Our emotions often change our behavior before we even realize it ourselves. You can notice these changes in many ways. Does someone suddenly stop smiling? Do they begin checking their phone more often during your conversation? Are they unusually quiet today? Have they become more impatient than usual? These small differences often provide valuable clues. However, avoid making quick judgments. A person may seem distracted because they didn't sleep well, not because they're hiding something. The goal is not to guess someone's secret. The goal is simply to recognize that their emotional state may have changed. The better you know someone's normal behavior, the easier it becomes to notice meaningful changes. Professional interviewers, counselors, and psychologists often pay close attention to these behavioral shifts because they can reveal feelings that words never express. So instead of comparing people with each other, compare them with themselves. That simple habit will make you much better at reading people. Trick number 5. Notice genuine smiles and forced smiles. Have you ever wondered whether someone's smile is real? Psychologists have studied smiles for many years and discovered that genuine happiness usually looks different from a smile that is forced. A real smile doesn't involve only the mouth. It also reaches the eyes. When people genuinely feel happy, the muscles around their eyes become active. Their eyes appear slightly smaller, and tiny lines may appear near the corners of their eyes. A forced smile often looks different. The mouth smiles, but the eyes remain unchanged. It may appear stiff, brief, or unnatural. Imagine meeting someone at a party. They smile politely when you introduce yourself. That's perfectly normal. But later, when they start talking about a favorite hobby or share a funny memory, their entire face lights up. Their smile becomes bigger, their eyes brighten, and their body becomes more relaxed. That second smile is usually much more genuine. Another interesting clue is timing. Natural smiles usually appear smoothly and fade naturally. Forced smiles may appear suddenly and disappear just as quickly. You should also pay attention to the rest of the person's body. Are they smiling while crossing their arms tightly? Do they smile while looking uncomfortable? If different parts of the body tell different stories, it may suggest mixed emotions. Again, this doesn't mean someone is being dishonest. Sometimes people smile simply to be polite or to avoid making others uncomfortable. That's completely normal in everyday life. The important lesson is to observe the whole picture. Facial expressions, eye movements, posture, and voice all work together. When they match, you get a clearer understanding of how someone really feels. Trick number 6. Pay attention to how they listen. Many people focus only on how someone talks, but psychology teaches us that listening can reveal just as much about a person's personality. Good listeners usually show genuine interest without saying much. Notice whether they maintain comfortable eye contact. Do they nod naturally while you're speaking? Do they ask thoughtful follow-up questions? Or do they constantly interrupt and bring the conversation back to themselves? Imagine you're sharing an exciting achievement with a friend. A truly interested listener will often ask questions like, "How did you do that? What happened next? How did you feel?" These questions show curiosity and attention. Now imagine someone who interrupts every few seconds. Before you finish your story, they immediately start talking about themselves. This may suggest they enjoy being the center of attention more than listening to others. Another useful clue is remembering details. People who genuinely care often remember small things you've mentioned before. They might ask, "How did your interview go? How is your family doing? Did you finish that project?" Remembering these details usually shows that they were paying attention. On the other hand, constantly forgetting important conversations may suggest distraction or a lack of interest. Body language also matters. A person who leans slightly forward, maintains relaxed eye contact, and avoids looking at their phone usually appears more engaged. Someone who keeps checking notifications every few seconds may not be fully present in the conversation. Of course, there are exceptions. A person may receive an urgent message or simply have a busy day. That's why it's important to notice patterns instead of isolated moments. People reveal their priorities through their attention. When someone consistently gives you their full attention, they are often showing respect, interest, and emotional presence. Sometimes, the best way to understand a person isn't by watching them speak. It's by watching how they listen. Trick number 7. Notice whether their words and actions match. One of the strongest ways to understand someone's true intentions is to compare what they say with what they do. Anyone can make promises. Anyone can say kind words. But actions usually reveal what a person truly believes and values. Imagine someone tells you, "I'm always here to help you." Those words sound caring. But every time you ask for help, they make excuses or disappear. Now compare that with another person who doesn't make big promises. Instead, they quietly shows up when you need support, checks on you, and keeps their commitments. Which person would you trust more? Most people would choose the second one. That's because consistent actions build trust over time. Psychologists often explain that people communicate in 2 ways. The first is through words. The second is through behavior. When both match, communication feels honest and reliable. But when they don't match, it's worth paying closer attention. For example, imagine a manager who says, "Our team is very important to me," but they never listen to employee concerns or appreciate anyone's hard work. Their actions send a different message than their words. Or imagine someone who says they enjoy spending time with you, but they constantly cancel plans without explanation. Again, this doesn't automatically mean they dislike you. Life gets busy. Unexpected situations happen. That's why it's important to notice patterns, not isolated events. One broken promise doesn't define a person, but repeated behavior tells a much clearer story. Actions are difficult to fake consistently. Over weeks, months, and years, people naturally reveal their priorities through what they repeatedly choose to do. Another helpful question to ask yourself is, if I ignored this person's words and looked only at their actions, what would I believe? Sometimes the answer becomes surprisingly clear. This simple habit can help you build healthier friendships, stronger professional relationships, and better decisions about whom to trust. Remember, the goal isn't to become suspicious of everyone. The goal is to understand people more accurately and communicate more wisely. You've now learned 7 psychological tricks that can help you understand people more effectively. Let's quickly review them. First, watch where their feet point because body direction often reveals attention and interest. Second, listen carefully to their tone of voice, not just their words. Third, notice how they treat people who cannot benefit them. Fourth, pay attention to changes in their normal behavior instead of comparing them with others. Fifth, learn the difference between genuine smiles and polite smiles. Sixth, observe how they listen because listening often reveals character. And finally, compare their words with their actions because consistent behavior usually tells the most honest story. These skills won't allow you to read minds. No psychological trick can do that. Human behavior is complex, and every person is unique. A single facial expression, one moment of eye contact, or one nervous habit never tells the complete story. That's why psychologists always encourage looking at the whole picture instead of relying on one signal. The more you observe with patience, the more accurate your understanding becomes. The best people readers aren't the ones who judge quickly. They're the ones who stay curious, ask thoughtful questions, and pay attention to consistent patterns over time. Use these psychological tricks to improve communication, strengthen relationships, and become a more understanding person, not to manipulate or unfairly judge others. When you combine observation with kindness, you become someone people naturally trust and respect. And that is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our latest psychology and self-improvement videos. Which psychological trick surprised you the most? Share your answer in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Also, if you know someone who enjoys learning about human behavior and psychology, share this video with them. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.